major moments in your life, a lot of them are defined by food. And so the power that I have as a chef to write a menu or to create a dish or to serve a dish to someone on an occasion where that dish or that food is got the potential to stay with them forever. As a chef, you shouldn't underestimate that.
Yeah.
Let's not paint a picture about how it is going to be to be a chef. You will always work anti-social hours because you work when everyone else wants to socialise. We could do the 12-hour long podcast of me start telling stories about what I've seen over the years. But, you know, back then, 25 years ago, if someone wasn't good enough, they were told to fuck off in the middle of service, and that was it. There was no like, oh, let's have a performance review and let's do it this and blah and blah blah blah. It was like cutthroat. All I've always said is I always want to be the best. Whether it doesn't matter what I do.
Will Holland, welcome to Hospitality Insights. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I really appreciate this. We're diving into this fine dining world. Something that I kind of touch in my career, not for a long period of time, to be fair. But you are a big guy in this world. So I want to get your insight. How did you get into hospitality in the first place?
So rewind the clock all those years.
This is it.
Yeah. Basically, I've never ever wanted to be anything else in my life. Like I've always wanted to be a chef. I've always wanted to cook. So I know this sounds a bit kind of, I don't know, a bit weird, but I think it's like my destiny to do it. You know, some people, they don't know what they want to do, even, you know,
years.
Yeah, even if they've come out of university with, you know, and they're super qualified, but they still don't know what they want to do as a career. But yeah, my mum tells an amazing story. This is before I can remember. So this is when I'm like, I don't know what my first memory is, but it's before that. So we're talking, I was young. But my mum and dad were lying in bed and it was like 5, 6 a.m. and they could hear me creeping downstairs from my bedroom. And then they could hear all this clattering around in the kitchen and they were like, what the hell's he doing? And I'd gone into the store cupboard and I was mixing flour and water together and rolling it into what I called biscuits. And I rolled them into balls, put them on a baking tray, put them in the oven. The oven was off. I stood there.
It was the first try, right?
Yeah. And apparently I kind of stood there. Mum and dad were like peeping around the kitchen door, not knowing, you know, me not knowing that they were there. And they were like, what the hell's he doing? And I was making biscuits. And so, I don't know, it's like stories that my mum and dad tell me like that. You know, I've never wanted to be anything else. So that's kind of, I mean, I'm not saying that my world into hospitality started then, but what I'm saying is it's from a very young age that I had a love of cooking and all I wanted to do was play sport, do art and cook. I wasn't interested in anything else. I wasn't interested in any academic subjects. I wasn't, you know, it was...
So it wasn't by chance that you got in hospitality. It was something that you pursue right from the beginning, which to be fair, like it's kind of crazy. I mean, I kind of had the same feeling. Obviously not the story with the cookies and everything else because I don't like making sweets. So it's a different kind of approach in my situation. I left hospitality like 5 years ago. It was a hard decision because same as you, I felt like this is it. You know, my mom was a cook. My auntie was a cook. In my family, like same as I found, you know, information about you, which is great because when I get a person like you, you know, which is a bit more public, you know, it's easier to get information. So I seen that you in your family, you know, food was highly regarded. You know, it was something like very appreciated. So I think it was exactly the same in my situation, and it's interesting to see that we kind of relate to these stories. But I stopped a while back. What made you kind of continue in pursue, you know, continuously, you know, these? Have you ever thought about changing this career, basically?
Never. It's like I said, I believe I was born to do it. And I mean, I've worked and I do still work bloody hard. Yeah. And I've had some amazing times. I've had some shit times. I've had some long, dark days, long, dark periods of my life, of my career, but it's never crossed my mind to stop. Like I'm very dedicated, kind of self-motivate. I've got a high drive, sort of high self-motivation drive. So I don't need someone to tell me to do something. I can tell myself
it's
to do
inside
it.
you.
Yeah,
You
it's
don't need
inside
someone
me.
to cheer you up. Oh, let's go, Will. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of like, if I want to do something, I'll do it. If I want to, if I want to do, if I want to do something, I want to do it the best. I want to be the fastest. I want to be the best. I'm very kind of like driven like that, and very kind of mentally strong as well. So when I've had those periods of my career and life, or where things have happened, whether it's inside work or outside work, where the easiest thing would have been to throw the towel in with work, is like, it's never ever crossed my mind to.
Do you think
to stop.
sport helped you quite a lot in this situation? Because I feel like, people that do sport, I can't really say this about me, but not anymore at least. I'll probably get back into it now because I feel really bad looking like how good into how good a shape you are. But I think like probably sport, play a big role, right? In situation when it was tough.
Oh, definitely. It's like I said, is when I was younger, I just loved sport. I loved cooking. I loved art. They kind of, for me, they go hand in hand. For me, physical exercise is more about mental strength than physical strength, in that, if you can control your mind and if you can make your mind strong enough, then that can override physical pain. So as long as you can tell your mind, control your mind tells your body to do something. So that's kind of how it is. But yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else. Even I remember at secondary school when we had like a careers talk, and I went into this careers chat, and the lady was there, and she said, right, what do you want to do education wise? And I said, I want to leave school. And she was like, oh my God, okay, right. He wants to leave school. Well, you're not interested in college or A levels or AS levels? I was like, nah, I want to be a chef. I want to get out of here. She was like, okay, right. So career wise, you want to be a chef, yeah. Second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, very kind of like...
They try to kind of like get you off track in a way.
Yeah.
It's like chef might not, it probably wasn't regarded as and probably even to these days, unfortunately, is not probably seen till to a level. I mean, obviously you got to a level where it's high standards, but it's probably not seen as a really strong career to follow.
I think also it was kind of like this school I went to. My mum and dad are both teachers, so they were very sure that I went to a good school. It wasn't a private school; it was a run of the mill secondary school, but it was specifically chosen for me and my sister, and it was very set up that you went to that school because it had an amazing sixth form, and you'd go from school into sixth form and you do your A levels, and then you'd go off into university. So it was very kind of like unheard of that you left school after you'd done your GCSEs, but that said, even from that careers talk of, right, what's your backup option, what's if chefing doesn't work, what's backup? What's number 2? What's number 3? What's number 4? And I told this lady, I said, nothing. She just put a line through the whole lot. They said, this kid wants to leave school and he wants to be a chef. And here we are 30 years later, whatever it is, since I left school, and I'm still a chef. So
still smashing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm still in touch with my HE teacher from school. So this is a great story as well. Is I wanted to cook, so I had to do home economics, which meant that I had to spend half the year doing textiles and knitting and sewing in order to do half of the year of cooking. I was prepared to do that. I was the only lad in the class. You wore pink. The uniform when you were in those classes was a pink apron. The amount of shit I got from the other boys at school because they thought I was gay.
Oh,
they were like,
at the time, being probably wasn't.
At the time, they were like, why does this guy want to cook? What's wrong with him? I was there, but my HE teacher that taught me how to cook, I'm still in touch with her now. She's in her 90s. And when I earned my Michelin star, she dropped me this letter and she said, I'm so proud of you. I always saw something in you. I can still, over her career of being an HE teacher, I taught hundreds, if not thousands of kids. I still remember you. And she actually visited my restaurant. Wow. And it was like...
It must have been such an honor for you.
It was amazing. It was like, I'm not saying, it was one of the proudest moments of my life, but it was amazing because, and I'm not saying it was her that, this isn't some like eureka moment where she was like, saw me and was like, oh yeah, I'm going to put special attention into that kid. But she had a part to play in it, So yeah, it wasn't like one of the proudest moments of my life, but it was cool that I was like, this is the teacher that taught me how to cook back then
And
in school.
believed in you in comparison to probably 90% of the others, which is huge, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. But yeah, just going back to my parents as well, it's kind of they're retired now, but they were teachers. My dad was a head teacher, so they were very, very kind of they've got aspirations of their children doing the kind of traditional education route. And my sister, me and my sister are completely different. She's younger than me, but she did A-levels, she went to university, she did amazingly at university, she went off to London, had an amazing career. So, but they were always supportive, but they were so nervous about, okay, you want to be a chef now, but in 5 years' time, in 7 years' time, 10 years' time, if you don't want to be a chef and you've got absolutely fuck all qualifications, what are you going to do? But career highlights and career moments throughout the way, they're just as proud of that as having a photo of me stuck on their mantelpiece the day I graduated uni. And I was like, yeah, I went on the piss for 3 years and spent your money. So it is what it is. But you touched on it as well about the kind of appreciation of food in our family. When I've said that, people think, oh, you're like a posh kid. We were a working class family. It wasn't like, we were tucking into lobster and foie gras each night. It was, what I mean by that, the appreciation of food, is we'd go shopping together. On a Saturday morning, me and my dad would go to the greengrocers. We had guinea pigs, and we'd ask the greengrocers if they had any bags of outside leaves from cauliflowers we could give to the guinea pigs. We'd go to the butchers. I was like starting to learn about cuts of meat from a young age because we were shopping properly. And preparing dinner was a family thing. It wasn't like mum did the cooking or dad did the cooking and me and my sister were watching TV. We were all in the kitchen chatting about, how was your day at work? How was your day at school? What did you do? What did you do? I'm peeling the carrots. My sister's peeling the potatoes. My mum's...
It was teamwork.
Yeah, it was teamwork. The same through to washing, eating. We'd always sit at the dinner table. But again, I'm talking humble food. I'm talking we'd make a spaghetti bolognese, you'd make a lasagna, like normal family grub. But you'd sit down as a family. So you'd prepare it together. You'd sit down and have half an hour of family time eating. You'd wash up together, and then you'd go and all do your own thing, whether it was homework, whether it was I'd go and play cricket or, nets training, whatever it is. That's the appreciation of food. Me and my sister, we never, ever ate in front of the television. Never. Like, I can't remember it ever. Things like you'd have water with your meal. Mum and dad were like, it wasn't like, we weren't like punished. We weren't like some kid that wasn't allowed treats. But if you want to have a Coke after your dinner, or have a Coke on the weekend. But with your meal, you drink water so you can appreciate. It's about eating food. It's not about filling up on pop. It's little things like that, And to this day, even stuff like that, it resonates with me. So now I've got a daughter, now I'm a father. She doesn't eat in front of the telly. We cook together. We don't cook her bloody nuggets and chips and me and my wife have a meal. She eats what we eat. If she doesn't want it, if she doesn't like it, she doesn't, that's the way it is. I see that in her. That's not me like being some selfish father that I want my daughter to be a chef. If she can be what she wants. But family, respect, family
strong
rules.
Values,
strong values. But, nowadays, or... I'm talking like some old man nowadays, for the last 10, 15, 20 years, you see people without values.
I can relate to this. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I feel like the basic stuff, basic like years back. Now people just go off chart. I don't know.
Yeah. This isn't while I've been on Jersey. This was in 2 jobs ago, but I did some stuff at the local secondary school. And it was kind of like motivational talk about careers chats and this and that. And I said, part of that was I want some of the kids to come and eat in my restaurant. So for lunch, I invited, I can't remember how many, 6, 8 of the kids. I want you to experience you want to be a footballer, you want to play in the Premier League. Okay, why not be a chef and play in the Premier League of being a chef? That's what I do. Come in and see what it's like. Half the kids had never sat at a table to eat a meal because at home they were just watching TV or playing on the PlayStation and trying to eat at the same time, or eating a burger while they're on the run. they didn't know which way a knife and fork went round. Wow. They didn't know. I'm not talking about they didn't have any etiquette of sitting at a white tablecloth table. I'm not being like snobby about this.
Yeah,
it's
like,
not
a posh situation. It's just more of the basics.
Basics, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. Is I had that instilled into me, good family values, especially around food. And again, that's what I love. So that's what resonates with me. But like I said, to this day, still with my daughter, I do that. So yeah, that's kind of, we've gone off piece, but it's important because it's a part of me. That's how it all started.
Yeah.
Left school, went to college. Hated college because I was good. And that, again, that's not being arrogant. That's just being realistic. Is back then.
Was it like cooking related? Is it college? Yeah, college you were into.
Catering college.
Yeah.
But the problem with that when I was there back then was there was 0 entry qualifications to go onto cooking course. So a lot of dropouts from school would do what I was doing. So you had me that I wanted to be a chef. I knew I wanted to be a
passionate.
Chef. Yeah. But you had to have 0 GCSEs to get onto the course that I was doing. So you had a lot of dropouts. That's cool, but they were wasting their time. So I was good by a long way at college. I won Chef of the Year at college, you know, both years. You know, I've still in touch with my lecturers. They knew I was good, but when I'm bored, I'm cheeky and I'm cocky and I mess about the same as anyone. So my years at college were kind of like, yeah, I learned, but I mean, they were teaching, you know, you'd go through
very basic stuff.
Bechamel sauce. I don't know. I mean, I remember one 3-hour practical lesson was on how to make scrambled egg. I'm there like, Jesus, I was making scrambled egg when I was 4 years old, cracking eggs using a whisk, allowed to use the hob. Like, do you know what I mean? So it was frustrating time at college, but I needed to do it. But if I hadn't done college, I wouldn't have had the first introduction into my first job, and that was in a Michelin-starred kitchen. So winning Chef of the Year in the first year, I got to cook with Paul Rankin, who was the chef on Ready Steady Cook at the time. So again, I was a 16-year-old lad cooking with the TV chef of the moment. It was insane. Second year, I won Chef of the Year, and the prize was to go and spend a day in a Michelin-starred kitchen. And that was with a chef called Gary Jones, who he was moved on to be Raymond Blanc's executive chef of Le Manoir for 20, 25 years. He was in the restaurant that he was in at that time that I went to spend a day with, and in turn, he offered me a job out of college. He was on a mission. He was, you know, it was his first kitchen that he won his first Michelin star. He was 20-something, late 20s. He was on a mission.
Was he really tough in the kitchen? Like,
it was. The
standards were probably really high.
The standards were high.
Pressure,
everything that went with it. But that was my first insight into a Michelin-star kitchen. So we can talk about that now. And like now I'm like, yeah, it's the norm. But you imagine like a cheeky, cocky college kid who thought he was the dog's bollocks.
Being hit by reality.
went into a Michelin-starred kitchen environment. And again, we're talking, this is 25 more years ago, where, you know, there was no such thing as a contract.
Hours was through the roof.
It was like, you know, and I went from like thinking I was like that to like, wash, you're not the level of the chef's shoe, you're under the shoe, you know. But again, I had some super hard times, super long, dark, shitty days, but it never, ever, ever crossed my mind to quit.
But then staying on the topic on the school topic, do you think that school is still relevant, you know, for in today's world? Should someone, okay, I know we kind of like jumping to this a bit to this too early, but since you are on this topic, do you feel like someone starting in this career should that person go through school, or should they learn it on the job?
The traditionalist in me says just get your ass into a kitchen and start climbing the ladder and work. The new school me says do education. And the reason I say that, and my mind's changed recently, as in the last few years, is I've seen the change in education. Like recently I went to the new Kennevet secondary school. The cooking facilities in that school are insane. You know, like amazing. So for secondary school aged kids, it's not like, they're going and, the facilities and the teachers and the knowledge and what they're actually doing. I mean, it was like when they had a school production. So, all the kids that are involved in the school production, whether you want to be dancing, singing, lighting, but they're putting on an amazing production. But then the kids that are interested in cooking, the teachers have had the thought process of, well, those kids aren't interested in something to do with the production, but they're interested in cooking. So they laid on this incredible canapé party where you've got kids made canapés that I'd be proud to serve in my restaurant. So it's things like that. So that's at school level. Then you go into college level and you go, is it relevant? You've got lecturers now that have either been there and done it as chefs, good chefs. I mean, even over here at Highlands, one of the lecturers, for example, he's got an incredible background and an incredible career as a chef. Dom. Yeah.
I've done some school here and I know, that he's really good.
But you look at his CV as a chef, amazing.
Yeah.
It's his decision why he's left that, whether it's because of hours or because of whatever it is. But he's now passing his knowledge on to the next generation through college.
Yeah.
So again, it's not like, these aren't stories of like what I'm saying about is you spent 3 hours learning how to make a bechamel, is you're in live service, the restaurants at college are open to the public. So me and you can go there and it's good value and you're being practiced on, but lecturers like Dom are passing on their knowledge to the next generation. So it's kind of, education has changed. I think it's important to get the basics and get the grounding. I mean, I'm very, very classically trained. So my style of food now, I still wouldn't say it's like super modern. It's like, it's got modern touches, but it's classic. It's how I teach my chefs these days. I'm not interested in not making stocks and sauces properly. I'm not interested in getting fillets of fish in. I want to get whole fish in. I want to get whole live shellfish in. I want to teach the guys the basics upwards, proper butchery, proper fishmongery, proper stocks and sauce making, proper, everything.
Do you feel like this is dying? Do you feel like this kind of like, even like, a commis chef, you would expect a commis chef, right, to know how to fillet the fish. Do you feel like, more and more, these kind of like skills, which are really basics in the cornerstones of a kitchen, are kind of disappearing because, let's say the fishmonger, can provide you with fillets of fish. The butcher, they can give you the fillet of beef, ready trimmed and everything else. You think they're kind of disappearing these? Do you see these, or the people you kind of got in touch with, or you get into your kitchen, they already know how to do this stuff?
I think it depends which way you look at it, and the environment that you're in is disappearing where it needs to disappear because of convenience, because of cost of, not every business can have 12, 15 chefs where they do everything from scratch. So they need to buy in chips. They need to, because they can't afford to pay someone to stand there for an hour and peel potatoes and hand cut chips. It's like, right, a delivery turns up and there's a bag of chips, or do you pay someone to stand there and make the chips? Same as are you in an environment where you have the budget to fillet the fish as opposed to buy fillets of fish and everything? So I think it's kind of like, we need to be kind of sensitive to the environment or the business that you're in. But in my world, and the kind of chefs that I want and the chefs that I want to train, is they have to have an interest in that. I'm not asking for chefs to come and work for me that are ready-made and ready-built, and they know how to fillet and they know how to do everything. That's my job. That's I see that as a massive part of my job. I take a raw, hungry chef with the right attitude, and it's my job to teach them. And that's the same with me back in the day, is I didn't know how to do something until, well, no one knows how to do something until you're taught it or shown it, so yeah, I think it's kind of like, it's one way. It's one way or the. It's all about the environment that you're in, whether it's a kitchen environment, the restaurant environment, costing, etc.
Sorry for taking you off track because you kind of like jump in between the lines. But going back to being second time, the chef of the year, and then moving into the Michelin star environment, and then being hit with that reality. What happened from there on?
So basically, moving between jobs, I always spent a decent amount of time in jobs, but I was very kind of, again, it's me. I was very driven. I was very hungry. I got bored very quickly. I wanted to learn as much as possible. I wanted to travel at a million miles an hour. So basically moving between Michelin starred kitchens to learn.
Was this all in the UK?
Yeah.
Or all the UK?
All in the UK. Again, my college lecturer, one of them said, and again, it was that kind of mentality back then, whenever, 25, 30 years ago, of that mentality. But he said, oh, if you want to make it, you've got to go to France. I was like, why do I need to, again.
With so many Michelin star places already in the UK, high level.
Yeah, I was like, why do you need to go to France to be a decent chef? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The French are amazing at cooking, but we can cook too here. Let's fly the flag. Yeah. Let's keep it going here.
Yeah, keep the pride,
Yeah. So yeah, basically, listen, working my bollocks off in Michelin star kitchens, and until I got the break. And the break for me was that the chef owner that I was working with at the time, I'd worked for him for 3 years, and we had the conversation. I instigated the conversation of it's time for me to go, because I was bored. I'd outgrown the kitchen. I'd kind of I couldn't see any.
What was the age?
25, 26.
Okay.
Yeah, it was young. I'm telling you, when I say that I was like hungry, I mean really hungry. Yeah. And he said, I don't want to lose you. So he said, what can I do to keep you? And I said, you buy me a restaurant, like joking. He said, right, we're going to get another restaurant. And so he did it. So again, not my money, but
it says a lot about the level where you're at, at that age, if they were willing to get another restaurant, that says a lot.
Yeah. But we set about it. We found a restaurant that hadn't even gone on the market. It was word of mouth. It was jungle drums. It was kind of like this restaurant's going to be on the market. Me and him got in a car. We drove there. We met the chef owner. We said we want to buy the restaurant. We shook his hand in the kitchen, and the rest is history. And that restaurant that I'm talking about is the restaurant that I became head chef of. And I opened it. I made it my own. I was involved in everything from interior design to choosing plates to designing the kitchen to obviously writing the menu, recruiting the chefs, sorting out the bin contract, everything. Yeah. I'm talking from the bottom.
It's a great experience, I guess, to go through, right?
It was amazing. It was amazing experience. It was amazing doing it so young. It was amazing not doing it with my own money. But that didn't mean that it was unlimited.
There was still pressure, obviously, yeah.
Super amount of pressure. I was given budgets for, I still remember to this day, I was given £15,000 budget for the kitchen. And I was like, I thought, wow, that's loads of money. And then I was like, oh, I want a Thermomix. Back then, Thermomix were just on the scene. I was like, I want a Thermomix. They were like, that's £1,000. I'm going, right, I've got 15 grand, and I just spent £1,000 on a liquidizer. I went, I don't want a Thermomix. So I went to Argos and bought a £30 smoothie maker, and we used to make purees in an Argos blender. We used to going off here, but we used to burn it. We used to burn it out. I remember every week we used to burn the blender out. Yeah. So I'd get a different chef each week would go back to Argos with the same receipt saying, oh, my mum's going hard on the smoothies at home. So she's burnt her blender out. So can we have another, come back with another one? And we were there, making the carrot purees, pea purees, every puree through this little liquidizer because I couldn't afford a Thermomix. But listen, so that was the restaurant that I am a Michelin star at. So this is kind of like setting the scene. But so I opened it from scratch. And 18 months after opening it, I was awarded a Michelin star. So, I was 29, I was under 30. We'd only been open a year and a half. There was a lot of eyes on the restaurant, definitely. but I wasn't aware of it really, because I was kind of like just in this zone of I want to do my thing, and I've got my own restaurant and I can cook what the fuck I want. And it was like, it was my dream, and no one was telling me what to do. I had complete freedom. It was amazing. But the day that I thought, well, something's going on here, is we had a table of one in. And again, I was kind of like, listen, a table of one's a table of one. I'm not the sort of chef that you have a table of one and it's like, oh my God, it might be an inspector. I was like, look, table.
You've got to be consistent across the board.
Yeah, consistent. I was like, we do what we do. And then he left, and my restaurant manager came in the kitchen and said the card that he paid with, he looked the name up on it, and it was the head of Michelin.
Oh.
And I was like, whoa, shit. Like, if the head of Michelin is eating in your restaurant, then it's serious. So we had an idea that we obviously had an idea that they were looking at us, and they were looking at me and my food. But obviously you don't, until that hits, and until it's in black and white, it's you don't even think about it really, or I didn't think about it. But it's funny. So the year I got my star, it was one of the years that the guide was leaked. So this is going.
Oh, so you knew about it earlier?
Well, this is before Michelin. Like nowadays, they do their glamorous awards presentations, and you get invited to London, and it's a big, huge event, or they do. And
you know way in advance, right? Because of that.
Well, I mean, if you're invited by Michelin to go to London, you're not going to say no. Or you're not going to go, oh, I wonder why I'm being invited. So you kind of know. But back then, again, this is like how we used to find out about Michelin stars.
Books, right?
Yeah. We used to go to W.H. Smith's on publication day and go and buy a Michelin guide, and used to stand in W.H. Smith going through it going, wow. So that was what we were expecting to do. I still remember, of course I remember, and I'm never going to forget this, but I was at home. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and my phone started ringing, and I was like, who the hell's ringing me at 1 o'clock in the morning? And it was, again, naming no names, but it was a very well-known 2 Michelin star chef in the UK ringing me. And he was like, Will, you've got a Michelin star. And I was like, what? I was like, A, why? I mean, and it was like, why are you ringing me? B, how do you know? And I was like, C, like, what's going on? He's like, well, you've got a Michelin star, I was like, what? Turns out that the guide had been leaked. So that was one of the years. And again, you can look it back up, because it was kind of like, again, for me, it was those years of kind of Michelin got leaked, and is it going to be leaked or not? But it was one of the years it was leaked, and someone had got hold of the press release that was going to go.
Yeah.
And so everyone was kind of talking about it. And so he gave me the heads up, but I was like, oh my God. So I went into work the next day, and I was like, I can't tell anyone until I've seen it in black and white, because it wasn't official in a way. Yeah, it wasn't official. Imagine I tell everyone, and then he was winding me up, or I don't think he was winding me up, but I was like, so I just went in. So I just had to go in, business as usual, poker face. We need to crack on.
But I'm sure in back of your mind now, probably it was quite a bit of a.
Do you know what? I think I was in that time of my career, and is that time of my life, and as a head chef, and in that restaurant, and with that the level we were operating, everything, I don't think I even had time to think about it. As we were in, and we were like, right, bang, 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 let's go. We've got prep to do. We've got lunch service. We've got dinner service. And then obviously it came out, and it was
But was that the aim of the restaurant when you guys opened? Was it the aim was like, okay, this place, is set up in a way that we're gonna get a start. We don't know when, but we will get a start. Was that the way it was kind of set up?
Do you know what? I've never ever. All I've always said is I always want to be the best. Whether it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter if I'm
whether with stars or without, right?
With stars, without, in life generally. Like if I want to, if I'm playing sport, I want to win. If I'm going for a run, I want to be the fastest. If I want to, I'm competitive.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to cook, I want to be the best. I know that I'm not going to be the best. I personally believe that perfection doesn't exist. So I'm like, but I want to know that I've given it my all and I've done my best, even if that in the kind of grand scheme of things, that's not the best compared to other people, is like, I want to be the best. I've never ever said, and it's never gone through my mind, I want to get a Michelin star. It's like, if I get a Michelin star, yeah, I did. it happened. Amazing, you know. And too many people, when they speak to chefs, they say, "Oh, are you going for a star?" What does going for a star mean? It's like you cook. If Michelin come, they come. Some restaurants don't even get some restaurants don't even get inspected by Michelin.
Yeah,
you know.
Point.
But if Michelin come, what are they looking for? Do they like your food? Yes or no? Does what you do and your restaurant do and you as a chef, does that fit with their agenda? Yes or no?
Fair.
It's like there's no, Michelin is, the beauty of Michelin is it's not in black and white what you have to do. It's not written, it's not tick boxes. It's not like if you do this, this, this and this, you will get a star. If you do this, this, this and this, you get 2 stars. If you do this, this and this, you get 3 stars. There's none of that.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, food in general, I think, is a bit like that. You know, what you like, probably I don't.
It's a very subjective thing, but the thing with Michelin and what I can't stress enough is that there's no such thing as going for a star, because what does going for a star mean? Does that mean I'm like, oh, I'm going to try really hard today to cook, or I'm going to try really hard to season this, or I'm going to try really hard to get a perfect cuisson on that piece of meat? It doesn't exist. As you're either doing it at the best you can or you're not. And forever, I've done it at the best I can. A lot of factors go into that, obviously, with regards to... It's like opening the can of worms with regards to, do you have enough chefs? How many covers have you got? Does all the guests turn up on time?
And
is it a nice...
Yeah, it can be, obviously, you do your part in the kitchen all well, but then when it gets served, you know, the waiter messes it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's but it's kind of like no one's making me do what I do. You know, I've chosen to work at this level. It's me that gets my ass out of bed each morning and goes to work and drives the team, because that's the level that we want to work at. If Michelin like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. You know, the thing that the whole thing with Michelin that I'm very grateful for, and I can sleep well at night, is I'm not one of those chefs that talks about, oh, I wish I could get a Michelin star, or I've always wanted to be a Michelin star chef,
already.
or this is cold hard facts. Is I opened a restaurant from scratch. 1.5 years after it opened, I got a Michelin star. I was under the age of 30 when I got a Michelin star. I'm cool. It's like I've been there, done it. If I get a star again in my career and in my life, great. If I don't, hey ho.
Yeah.
There's more. It's almost like there's more to life than Michelin.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of chefs get very, very tied up in the whole Michelin thing, and they can't sleep at night, or they beat themselves up, or Michelin want 10 different breads. So they spend all morning, every day, making 10 different bread rolls, and 9 of them are shit and 1 of them's nice. It's maturity, but now I look at it and I go, let's make 1 shit hot bread.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's consistent. It's the same every day.
Do you also think that there is a trend for what they're looking for? If let's say 20 years, I'm just guessing here. Let's say 20, 30 years ago, they were looking for like the perfect French or perfect classics. Are they looking now for something else? Do you feel like this is
Do you know what? I think Michelin, I know Michelin have diversified massively. Is if you look, again, when I started out 25 years ago, every Michelin starred restaurant was white tablecloth, was crystal cut glasses, was silver cutlery, was dress plates, was canapes, was amuse-bouche, was pre-desserts, was a selection of petit fours, was homemade bread. And it wasn't Michelin that ever said that's what you have to do. It's just everyone thought that's what I need to do to get a star. Yeah. Michelin, probably the turning point, I think, was when either when Tom Kerridge got 2 Michelin stars in a pub, or even when he got his first star in a pub, and when other restaurants of other cuisine got Michelin stars, whether it was Japanese. I'm talking in the UK. In the UK.
Oh, in the UK. Okay.
In the UK, I'm talking about, when, Thai restaurants were recognised by Michelin. When Japanese restaurants got Michelin stars or whatever. Then I think people people, chefs, were like, oh, what? I don't have to have a white tablecloth to get a Michelin star. No, you don't. It's like,
It's a turning point, yeah.
Yeah, but everyone turns it onto Michelin and says, oh, but you said, no, we never said that. You assumed that's what we wanted, And now, I mean, you look at the Michelin guide now, the diversity in there, whether it's stars, whether it's green stars, what they do now with, the whole sustainability route, the Bib Gourmand with the accessible pricing and the recognition in that, or just being listed in the Michelin guide. It still carries a lot of weight, but it's a very, very diverse guide to how it used to be. And I think that's also people's mentality was like, Michelin's a French company, so they've always got a bias to French chefs or French cuisine. I'm talking about in the UK.
Yeah.
Rubbish. Do you know what I mean? You look at the Michelin guide now, it's, there's French chefs in it, obviously. Yeah, there's classic fine dining, classic French cuisine, classic cooking, but you've got a lot of diversity in there.
There's another thing. The AA guide, there's something that, look, I'm talking from the perspective of someone that's just questioning these, not that he's knowing. There's a different, I feel like, it's just more of like trying to find something from you if you have this information. I felt like when you get to the point, like you guys, I think are 4 rosettes, right? When you get to that level, it was almost kind of like known that that's equivalent of a star. How do you feel the differences between the two guides? Are they like massively different? How did they kind of approach this fine dining world?
I think, yeah. I mean, traditionally, and again, when I was younger and when I was growing up, it was kind of like 3 rosettes is 1 star, 4 rosettes is 2 star, 5 rosettes is 3 stars. That's how they kind of like, that's how classically they looked at the merging. From my point of view, like I said, I've never cooked saying I want to get a Michelin star or I'm going for a star. It's exactly the same with the AA guide. I've never said, oh, I want to get this or I want to get that. I'm aiming for 3 rosettes, or what do I need to do to go from 3 to 4, or wow, now I've got 4. What do I need to do to? It's like I'm chilling, I'm cooking, I'm enjoying myself, I'm happy, I'm cooking my food. If AA think my food's 3 rosette, great. If they think it's 4 rosette, great. If they think it's 5 rosette, great. It's up to them. I've got no control over them when they send their inspectors in, what the inspector chooses, what the inspector thinks about what they're eating and what they've experienced. All I'd say with that, with the 2 guides, is they're 2 completely different guidebooks. They're 2 completely different companies. They've got 2 completely different 2 completely different audiences. I think, I'm not talking about chefs that buy guidebooks because they're in it. I'm talking about general public or people that use guidebooks as a reference point to choose where they want to go and eat. I think the audience for AA and the audience for Michelin is different. It's one of those. I mean, we live in a world where there's other guides as well. Good food guide. I think Good Food Guide's really influential with like normal people, as in not
accessible,
not foodies that are like, oh, last year I ate at 20, I did 25 stars, or they've got a guidebook, a Michelin guide, and they're ticking off, or they want the chef to sign the pages, or, it's like, there's people like that, like obsessed foodies. But, from a kind of like normal point of view of someone that grabs a guidebook and says, where shall I go and eat? I think the Good Food Guide's really, really good. So it is what it is,
Yeah.
I know it's very easy for me to say that because now I'm 44 years old. I've been there, done that. I've lost sleep over it. I've celebrated. I've been, it's kind of like a period of my life. So it's easy for me to sit here and be like, it's cool, I've been there and done it. But now there's like so much more to life than does your restaurant have a Michelin star, or are you in a guidebook, or, I mean, from a professional point of view, from a work point of view, I'm in charge of a kitchen in a multi-million-pound business. It's got to work. Yeah. I've got 15 chefs. Like, how do you pay 15 chefs and not have a full restaurant? It just doesn't work.
That's the main worry, not whether the guide is coming or...
Yeah, we've got guests that come and stay for, I mean, I've got guests in house at the minute in the summer for 2 weeks, and they want to eat something different every night for 2 weeks. It's like, no problem. That's the world that I'm in. So that's more my agenda at the minute, is making people happy through the power of food, making the owner happy through the power of running a business successfully, teaching and training and retaining staff. It goes on and on. There's a lot more to my role, my work. There's a lot more to it than, I've got this or I've got that. At the end of the day, that's a plaque that hangs outside the restaurant, or it's a plate that you stick in a case on the wall, and people walk past it, and half the people that walk past it don't actually know what it means. Do you know what I mean? If you stopped 10 people in the street out there and said, what does a Michelin star mean? I reckon 1 out of 10 would tell you close to what it actually means. 9 out of 10 would be like, I don't know. What does it mean?
Was it like it's worth a stop or something?
Yeah.
Like, how did they
worthy of a journey, or worthy of a detour? It's like, what does that mean? I mean, if I'm hungry, I'm gonna go and find some food, aren't I? That's human instinct.
And then, to be fair, in certain, it can backfire as well. Depending on how you see it, because people already have that mentality. It's got to start. This is too expensive. It's too fancy for us. So probably it can backfire as well, if you have a star. I can see that happening. I don't know, just kind of a guess here. But, coming back to what you were saying, I don't know if you know Steve Walker. I worked with him for a bit. He was head chef at Sirocco when I worked there. And it was 2 rosettes at the beginning, and then he moved it to 3. And then he was like, I had it on the podcast, and he was like, man, I chased this star, for a while. And I wanted to be, it was a dream, and until I realized, happy people, happy food, I need to make sure that the customers are happy. I need to make sure that the business is doing okay. And then if it happens, it happens. If not, you know what? I couldn't care less. And he was he felt a lot better after that. Pressure was a bit like released, and then he just continued cooking. And then is when he got when he got the 3rd rosette. And since then, he's doing it. I think he's now at the Somerville, if he's still there. Yeah. But he did say, that it's a lot of weight if you put it on yourself to think that I want this star. I really want it. It's a very weird world to live in.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. What I'm saying about this and everything I'm saying today is my opinion, and it's my story. So when I say there's no such thing as going for a star, I'm talking about that's what I think.
Yeah.
Listen, I sit down with chefs. I've got 90% of my friends are chefs. I've got chef friends in the UK that run their own business, and we sit down until 3 o'clock in the morning over a few beers, eating cheese, and they're saying, I want this, I want that, I want to go for this, I want to go for that, I want to chase this. So what do I need to do to get that? And it is a big part of what we do.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, so what you're talking about, your friend there, is him saying, I was chasing this, or I chased this for years, or I did this. I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It happens, and chefs have that mentality. What I'm saying for me is, it's never gone through my mind, and I've never ever, those words have never come out of my mouth. I want to get it, like I'm chasing this, or so each to their own, I suppose. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're cooking food. It's like food's your body needs food to function, but food can be really tasty. It can be, the thing I like about food is it's a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful thing. It can, everyone talks about dishes that they ate, you remember what you had on your wedding day. You remember that amazing holiday when we ate in that restaurant, and remember that. You remember those prawns we had. Remember this. Remember that. It's like major moments in your life. A lot of them are defined by food, and so the power that I have as a chef to write a menu, or to create a dish, or to serve a dish to someone on an occasion, where that dish or that food is got the potential to stay with them forever, even though they eat it in 5 minutes or 20 minutes. It's like, you shouldn't as a chef, you shouldn't underestimate that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of what I do. Like I said, I always liked art. I see food as art. I see it kind of as a medium of expressing myself. I've got ultimate creativity that I can do what I want. No one's telling me, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that, or, you know, we must have beef on the menu or whatever it is. I can do what I want. So it's good.
What's your job like? You know, okay, finishing with this Michelin star, we got so much insight from you. It was great. But moving on now, how does the executive chef role looks like? Because we had head chefs on the podcast, we had like regular chefs and all sorts of like levels from all sorts of areas. But what does an executive chef do differently than, for people that don't know? Because obviously we got people from outside of hospitality that probably they don't really know. It just sounds like a fancy kind of like job, but what does
it is? Listen, I still sweep the floor. I still scrub the stoves. I still take the bins out. It's like it's a fancy title, you know.
What's the difference between a head chef and an executive chef? Let's just put it this way, because we're not going to go between an executive chef and a commis chef, because there's going to be too big of a gap probably.
Yeah.
But
it
kind of comes, sometimes it overlaps, as you said.
I mean, I think executive chef, you'll 99% of the time find them in a hotel, because my responsibilities is to take care of everything food related in the whole hotel. So it doesn't matter if it's breakfast, it doesn't matter if it's afternoon tea, it doesn't matter if it's a sandwich, it doesn't matter if it's a burger served on the terrace. It doesn't matter if it's someone's wedding. You're going to have your wedding next year and you want to talk to the chef about what food you want. Like everything, every single edible thing in that hotel I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And everything that goes with that. Everything that I need to do to make that happen.
Deliveries,
whether it's deliveries, suppliers, health and safety, food safety is a huge one. Allergens, recruitment, training, kitchen porters, rotas, budgets, making sure that the kitchen is running correctly financially, as in dishes are making the right amount of profit, menus are priced correctly. You know, there's like a million things involved in my job. An executive chef compared to a head chef is the head chef, or how I see the head chef, and I have a head chef, so I have a head chef underneath me.
I was going to ask, actually.
Is they are responsible for the day-to-day running of the kitchen. You know, so they don't need to be worrying about working out food costs. They don't need to be looking at invoices and working out who we're going to buy the blah from because it's cheaper from them, or it's better quality from them, or it's this or it's that. They are responsible for the day-to-day running the kitchen, as in, right, are all the chefs here? Is all the produce here? Are we ready for the next service? And
any big issues, passing them on to you, I guess.
Pass them on, whether it's HR issues, whether it's, you know, quality of ingredient issues, whether it's, you know, anything.
Do you still get the chance to cook? Because, you know, obviously having that many things on the agenda, you know, I guess you get the cooking is the fun part.
Listen, when I went for the position at the Atlantic, I said I'm only interested in applying for this job if it's hands-on. So yes, I have an office. Yes, I have to spend time in my office, but the fun part, the enjoyable part, the bit which gets me out of bed in the morning is not going and sitting in an office. It's being in a kitchen. And like I said, it's fish delivery arrives and I'm teaching or training a younger chef how to prepare something, or how to make we get lobsters in live. Right, this is how we kill them, cook them, prep them. This is how we use the shells to make a bisque. This is how we use the brains to do this. This is how we make the pasta out of that. This is, you know, like using every part. It's like that's me. That's what I want to do. I'm still on the pass, so I still work. I mean, again, I still work. Well, I work 60 hours a week, which for a lot of people listening to this, they'll be like, shit, that's a lot of hours. For me, that's like, cool. I'm like happy with 60 hours a week.
I remember the times. I worked for just a short period when, I don't know, were you here when Ormer was still, so I worked at Ormer for I can't remember. It must have been like 7 months or so. But yeah, 60, I remember those hours. Yeah.
But it was like, I was speaking to someone a few months ago. He's, I don't even know what he was, gardener, I think he was. Not at the hotel. This is like someone bumped into. And he was like, oh yeah, chefs work so hard. And I was like, well, I work really hard, but I'm happy because I'm on a strict, all the contracts at the Atlantic, we're very, very hot on hours. So like my contract is 60 hours. I don't work over 60 hours. I don't work 61 hours. It's like, no. If you're on that hourly contract, that's what you work max. So I said, yeah, but I'm happy now. I've got real good work-life balance. I've got a daughter. I've got my wife. I'm happy with my life and I'm super happy with my work because I only work 60 hours a week. And he went, what? He goes, a 60-hour week contracts actually legal? I went, yeah, of course they are. What are you talking about? He's like, whoa. And I was like, man, compared to what I used to do, that's nothing.
I was gonna say, yeah. 'Cause sometimes some kitchens, even when I left cooking like 5 years ago, there were still contracts, where you have like 50 hours in a contract, but you do like 10, 15 extra and you don't even get paid for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So now I think, contracts and everything, and the kitchens probably are in a better terms. And then going back to kitchens, I want to kind of like know how is cooking now, or how is the life of a chef now comparing to, let's say, 20 years ago or whatever the years, 15, 10 years ago, when you kind of begin.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's same shit, different day. It's like, still, let's not paint a picture about how it is going to be a chef, because then if you paint a picture and it's not there, that
people set expectations.
Yeah, the expectations, it's not reality. So let's look at it in broad terms and black and white. Is
perfect.
Being a chef you will always work anti-social hours, because you work when everyone else wants to socialize. So you have to work the weekends, you have to work Saturday nights. Over here, you're busier in the summer than you are in the winter. It's like you have to work evenings. People want breakfast, so you have to get up early in the morning. It's like, so that's never going to change. So that's kind of like, that side of it is still exactly the same. And from my point of view, it's still exactly the same, that I still get super turned on about making nice food and having amazing ingredients and playing with them, essentially. I think how it's changed, or I think it has changed massively, is the kind of law around it. Employment law.
HR.
Like that. Hours we spoke about, pay. Everything it's had to be pulled into line, because back then
it was a bit of a Wild West, right?
It was Wild West. It was cutthroat. It was cutthroat. We could do the 12-hour long podcast of me start telling stories about what I've seen over the years. But back then, 25 years ago, if someone wasn't good enough, they were told to fuck off in the middle of service, and that was it. There was no like, oh, let's have a performance review and let's do it this and blah and blah blah blah. It was like cutthroat. Now, I'm not saying that was right, by the way, but I'm saying that's reality. That's how it was. Nowadays, how it's changed with being a chef to now is still bloody hard work. It's still hot, sweaty conditions. It's still anti-social hours. You still work a lot. A 50, 55, 60 hour week contract is still classed as a lot compared to most.
Well, I'm doing like 30 something.
Normal jobs.
Yeah.
So it's still high.
It is.
But employment law protects you as an employee and as an employer. Contracts are written for a reason, that they have to be stuck to. Pay, for example, at the Atlantic, we're living wage employers, so salaries are amazing. When I look back to what I was paid originally, and you do that, you make the mistake once as a commie chef. You work out your after you've completed your first month, you work out your hourly rate, and it's like under £1 an hour, and you're like, okay, so you're like, right, I'm never going to do that again. But you look at now, with living wage, it
was worth it, all that pain, I guess, going through it till you got here, right?
Yeah, it was from my point of view, but I'm happy. What I'm more happy about is making sure that the guys that I employ aren't in the situation that I was in back then. So I'm talking about like not having money to live, or paying your rent and then being skint, or not being able to top up your phone because you didn't have enough money. Like all that kind of, you're not having money to put petrol in your car.
From, right?
Yeah.
And then the way I see it, sorry for kind of jumping in, that's why sometimes people probably think I'm mad, when I'm kind of like laughing when sometimes people say, back in the days, it was cutthroat, it was this and that, and it sounds bad, but I guess he made you a better person, understanding, what not to do, right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm a very forward-thinking person. I'm not like, if I'd have done this or if I'd have done that. I don't regret, or I wouldn't have done anything differently. I went through that. It shaped me as a person. I'm like super, super strong mentally, super strong physically. I am where I am now. But that doesn't mean there's a lot of chefs that have been through that and they're like, right, because I was treated like that, then I'm going to make you be treated like that because you need to learn. It's like that. You just said it, is I've learned the hard way, and I've learned a lot of things that I would do differently, and I do differently. And my management style and my management technique and my man management is like completely different to how I was managed, because I know how I felt on the receiving end of it. So now I'm kind of like, right, I'm not going to make people feel like that, and I'm going to manage them correctly, etc., etc. And I mean, that's the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way it has to be.
What are the challenges in your role? What are the biggest challenges? Because obviously, you went through like the stuff you do, which is a lot, and then I've got 60 hours. That's a lot, for like someone like me now, which moved into an office role. 60 hours is something that you already probably start crying. I'm not at that level because I used to work, 60 hours in the past, being in the kitchen. But still, for someone probably that never touch the professional kitchen, they'll be like, "Are you mad?" And you already said that story. So what are the challenges?
I think the biggest challenge at the minute for me is the cost of ingredients. The cost of produce it's gone through the roof. We could sit here and talk about why have they gone up, whether it's the war in Ukraine with Russia, Brexit, blah, 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 COVID, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, everyone sees it. You see it when you go to the supermarket and you buy a bag of shopping for your family. It's 4 times the price it was 2 years ago. From our point of view as business, people in business, is how do we make a business work with that cost of ingredients rising? Because you can't just put your price of your menus up. Like it doesn't.
It becomes unaffordable for people to.
Yeah. You shoot yourself in the foot. You have a menu and the main course is 80 quid. And people go, well, I'm not going to go there. You have an empty restaurant. So the biggest challenge at the minute for me is running a financially viable business, making the product attractive, sticking to my roots of quality and consistency, as well as cooking for my audience, cooking for my guests, the guests that come to the Atlantic. What do they want? So it's like, I love mackerel. I love fresh mackerel. Does a guest come into the Atlantic for dinner for their wedding anniversary? Do they want to eat mackerel for dinner? Probably.
No matter how fancy you make it.
How fancy you make it, or how fresh it is, or it was local, or it was this, probably not.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't put an amazing mackerel on the lunch menu.
Yeah.
So it's about being really clever in what you buy, running the food costs properly. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest
a big challenge for you.
Everyone going on about staffing at the minute.
Yeah.
Staffing has never been a problem for me anywhere I've worked. I mean, I'm not saying I've had days or periods where I've been understaffed.
Yeah.
One of my biggest positives or biggest strengths is looking after staff and mentoring them. I see myself as a good mentor, as a good teacher. And once I've got a hold of someone, I'll give them everything. And it doesn't mean they'll work for me forever, but I know that I'll be able to get, right, you're at that level. I can get a year, 18 months out of you and you'll leave at that level. Or I want you to work for me for 2 years or 3 years or 5 years.
You'll go better than you'll go in a better position, probably. It'll be a better level than when you started.
Yeah. And I mean, level's level and title's a title, and you have to have progression, and you're building a CV, and that CV drops on someone else's door, drops on someone else's desk, in the future one day, and it's there in paper. But I'm talking about teaching skill. I'm talking about teaching how to be a good person, how to be a good person and a good chef. But yeah, I've never had a problem with staffing. I mean, it's like when I moved to the Atlantic. So I moved when I moved from the UK to Jersey and moved to the Atlantic, I brought 6 chefs with me from the UK because they wanted to work for me.
Wow.
It wasn't like, oh yeah, we want to go and have
You had your own team basically by the time you started.
Yeah, I brought them with
Wow.
me, you know, and it's the same. I've had other chefs that have worked for me previously in the UK. They've moved to Jersey since. I've had, like, I could tell you a couple of dozen stories of my success stories where I've had, you know, this kid finished college or this kid did work experience with me from college and then came to me full time after, and they left as junior sous, or they left as chef de partie, or they've gone on to earn their own Michelin star, or they've gone on and they're running their own business. They've got their own restaurant. They've gone and been I've got chefs that work for me. Like, I've got chefs that they worked at Beefeater before they came to work for me, and they worked for me for 3 years, and they're head chefs of 2 Michelin star restaurants in the middle of London now.
Wow.
You know, like it's lovely to sit here and say that, and it does make me feel good about it. But I'm not talking about this. This is cold hard facts. This is what has happened. So it's tried and tested, and I know that if I get hold of a young chef with the right attitude, then I can
But
do
what
that.
advice would you give to, let's say, well, probably 90% of the people that I had on the podcast, they'll be like, everything is good, business is booming, staff issues. What would be your, like, first, let's say, 2 or 3 points where, like, try to do this, and this, and you might have a chance?
Well, with regards to staff,
Yeah.
I think at the minute, Brexit has been really tough for our industry.
Yeah.
Like I look back over my career I've worked with so many nationalities, but you go through waves of, it was all European. Then it was all Eastern European. Then Brexit happened and it was like
Africa, whatever.
Yeah, we've gone to, now you have to think outside the box, but honestly, some of the most, like now I employ Kenyan chefs, I employ Caribbean chefs, from Antigua, South Africa. You have to think outside the box. But some of those guys now, they are like the best blank canvas you can ever imagine, and the most respectful, humble people that you could ever wish for. But it's this kind of like attitude a lot of people have of like, you want them to turn up and expect to be able to do what you want them to do. It's lazy. Like, get that guy in front of you and teach him and show him, or girl, and say, right, this is the way this is the way I want it done. We have to do it this way for X, Y, Z reason. It's no problem.
So is training then a big part of that?
Training is a massive thing, but again, I'd rather take chefs on as commis and demis and make them into CDPs or senior CDPs or junior sous or sous. Like, I'd rather do that than be lazy and pay 5-10 grand a year for someone that you think's a sous chef, and they come in and you just like leave them to it, expect them to just get on with it. So I think it's that kind of like mindset of like, be resourceful. It's like people say when I'm looking for a chef, people say, oh, what's the minimum requirement? I said, the minimum requirement is you turn up when you're told to turn up and you've got a good attitude. That's the minimum requirement. I don't care about if you've worked in rosetted kitchens. I don't care if you've had experience. I don't care. A lot of the guys that I employed, they've never eaten in a Michelin star kitchen, let alone worked in one. It's like, who cares? You got the right attitude, I'll teach you the rest. But turn up, don't say no, don't say but, and just get on with it.
Well, this is it. So I guess, it plays a lot on like training and being able to, and not just being there with them along that journey, I guess, and being able to be more flexible, not looking for someone that's already like on paper, at least very skilled and everything else. Take someone that's got a good attitude, willing to learn, and then put those hours into train. And then I guess we would be in a better place. Is that what you like say?
Definitely. Right. But that's, we go back to when you said what's, what the role of an exec chef. Yeah. Teaching and training, motivating, caring for, like, those are huge parts of my job, But would I be where I am today if my old chefs hadn't done that to me? All right, they did it in a different way, in that it was like, do it this way or do one. Yeah. But they invested in me, and they put the time, effort, energy, skill, teaching, training into me. It's my duty to do that to the chefs of tomorrow, as in the chefs that are working for me now, you know.
Yeah, that's such a nice way of putting it. And I guess more and more people could learn from these words and then try to implement that in their own establishment.
But again, I've mentioned it before, as I'm talking about in my world. So this isn't me like, you know, high and mighty, or this tried and tested. I understand that in some restaurants you don't have as many chefs as I have. I understand that it's a shit fight out there. I understand that you're fighting fire. I understand that if someone doesn't turn up to work and you have to phone an agency chef and they come in and they don't know what, I've been there, done it. I understand all that. So, yeah.
But it also comes to a lot to like creating this environment where you can basically rely a bit more on yourself, like in terms of like plan this training ahead, plan, you know, these guys that come in ahead, you know, probably get a bit of a hit financially, I guess, you know, but be prepared for the times when someone is thinking about moving on to a different place. I don't know. I guess having someone in the back of mind all the time, probably it would be also a good shout, my guess.
Yeah.
You know?
No, definitely. But I mean, again, I've had, you know, when I have turnover of staff, everyone has turnover of staff.
Yeah.
But I see like, right, how long can I get out of this person? It's almost not their decision. It's almost my decision, because it's like, how much can I give them? And I've had conversations with chefs where I've said, it's time for you to go. Not because we've got a problem. And I've had conversations where I've said, look, I love you to pieces. I want you to, you know, if I'm being selfish, I want you to work for me forever. But you've outgrown, I can't teach you anymore.
That's
or you've
powerful.
outgrown this kitchen. It's time for you to go and do something else. And then I use my big old directory of contacts and I say, right, where do you want to go? And I've had that like multiple times. And 50% of the time, that chef will actually come and work for me again at 5 years down the road.
Because you gave them that chance and showed them the right way. And I guess it comes back to, you know, the time when you were younger, and although you were really good in the places where you work, you thought at some point, be like, okay, it's time to move on because I want to progress. And you probably see that in them as well, which is great.
Yeah,
I think.
but sometimes chefs are too busy being busy that they don't look at themselves from the outside. Me looking at my kitchen from the outside, everyone is individual. Everyone's come from a different background. Everyone's at a different level. Everyone's different level of skill. Some people are better at communicating than actually, you know, like it takes all those little moving parts to make the kitchen unite and come together. But sometimes they're so busy just in their little world that they need me to go, right, listen, you need to go and do something else. Or have you thought about this? Or why don't we move section for you? Or do you know what I mean? And I see that as my job, is kind of like, I'm like hovering above, looking down, kind of moving the pieces and going, you know, and also not being, like I said, not being selfish. Is like, a lot of chefs out there will be selfish and like, oh, I'm going to be in the shit if you leave, so I'm going to pay you some more. Even though I can see you're bored out your brains and you've been on the veg section for 2 years, I'm going to pay you some more because I just want to keep you. A lot of chefs think like that. It's like, don't be selfish.
Yeah.
Be respectful, be humble to that guy, and more than likely the guy will come and work for you again in the future.
Yeah.
It's like, what goes around comes around.
We went through your journey from the beginning, so where I want to kind of like go a bit back in a way. How did you get in Jersey? Because we kind of like stopped at the point that you were talking about stars and everything else, and we kind of like got carried away with that. But you came in Jersey like 2016, 18 or something like that, if I remember, like
6 years ago. Yeah.
So how did you end up here?
So how it ended up was, I'm a big believer in fate, or everything
Karma
happens for a reason. Karma, yeah. No, I am. But so the restaurant that I was at, I'd been there for 3 years. I was loving it, but I was frustrated with it. I couldn't get to my full potential there because of XYZ reasons. So I contacted a good friend of mine that's a recruitment agent. So this was like off the record chat. This wasn't me ringing a recruitment agent saying, I want you to find me a job. I just contacted him off the record. I said, I don't want you putting my CV out there. I don't want you touting my name about. This is between me and you. But if something comes up in the future that you think is suitable or could be suitable for me, give me a shout before it's like goes on general sale, as it were. And he said, what are you looking for? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm looking for a challenge. I'm looking for a real challenge. Probably a hotel, because I want to take care of more than just cooking 5 lunches.
Did you do
and 5
hotels
dinners.
till that point?
I've done hotels. So my first 2 jobs were hotels. My second 2 jobs were restaurants, and then I returned.
Because it's a totally different beast, you
Yeah.
know. I worked once, you know, and I'm like, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
no, twice actually, but
Yeah. It's a different mindset, but the reason why I wasn't releasing my full potential, I think, in the restaurant was because of XYZ parameters, but also you were cooking 5 lunches and 5 dinners a week, is I wanted to have a little bit more than that. So we had this conversation when he said, well, you need to give me a clue what you know, find me a job, give me a clue what you're actually looking for. So I said, yeah, probably hotel, needs to be like top end, needs to be food focused. Food has to be put on a pedestal in that place. I'm not going to a hotel where we're just going to be banging out buffets and that kind of thing and weddings and, you know. And he said, you'll never believe this, but this morning I had a phone call with the owners of the Atlantic Hotel on Jersey. And I was like, wow, what? That's how it all started. So the day I phoned him for an off-the-record chat was the day that the owner of the Atlantic spoke to him that he had the executive chef job position going.
wow. Okay,
And this friend who, I mean, he's a good friend. He's a recruitment agent, but he's a good friend, but we don't talk to each other every week. We're not texting each other every day. Like, oh, what's around is like, I mean, we speak to each other every couple of months. The day I phoned him was the day he spoke to the owners of the Atlantic. So I kind of think it was meant to be. But obviously then our daughter was under a year old. We were very settled where we were. So me and my wife had a very frank and honest chat. We flew to Jersey jumped in a hire car and drove around the island and had a recce and said, can we envisage ourselves living here? Obviously looked at the Atlantic, obviously had the interview process.
Have you been here till that point, you know, or it was first time in Jersey?
No.
First time.
My wife had been here once before. She'd had a girly weekend here. But it just felt right. It felt right with the Atlantic. It felt right with Jersey. It felt right with
family, maybe
family bringing up our daughter here. But all of those, I mean, it can feel right, but still, it's a big ballsy decision to say, right, I'm going to take that job on. I mean, taking the job on is a massive thing anyway. Like, you know, to walk into an establishment like that and say, right, I'm going to make this my own, and I'm going to, you know, and I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big ballsy decision anyway. Uprooting your family. Our daughter, like I said, was under a year old at that time.
Because it's different when you're on your own. The risks are minimized.
Listen, we've all been, when I was 20 years old and I moved job, I literally packed up my suitcase with my chef's whites, my knives and my PlayStation and got on to, you know, I was like, right, where am I going? That was my commitments was in that one suitcase. You know, it cost $5,000 to move our stuff here in a container. I mean, that's a decision.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to find somewhere to live here and understanding the whole Jersey process with renting and tax and, you know, you go from, I mean, little things, but, you know, you don't even think about that is you get child allowance in the UK. We moved here. I was like, go to Social Security. I was like, right, how do I transfer my child allowance over here? You don't. Okay, cool. We didn't think about that. You know, how do you do this? Oh, no. You know,
Is chef life different here as well? Like, would you say that is a lot different than the UK?
I don't know about chef life as such, but I think living on Jersey for me,
life in general.
Life in general it's that work-life balance. So again, like I've said, I still work bloody hard. I still work 60 hours a week. So it's not like I've come here for a holiday. I'm not suddenly come here and I'm working 30, 38, 40 hours a week. I still work 60 hours a week, but the work-life balance on Jersey and the Jersey gives you, whatever the profession, is incredible. You know, it's like we live a minute from the beach, you know, so I can have the most stressful day at work and I can go and just walk on the beach at midnight, walk the dog on the beach at midnight, and it's like, or you work your bollocks off for 5 days and you're 2 days off, you take your daughter and wife and go to the beach and buy a disposable Barbie and have a beer and build sandcastles with your daughter, and it's cost you 20 quid. And you do that for 2 days, you go back to work and you feel like you've been on holiday. Like literally from a mental health point of view, that work-life balance is, I think there's very few places that you could get that. So I don't think, I mean, when I'm in my kitchen, I don't think, well, wow, I'm on Jersey and isn't it different? It's different for some reasons. It's more challenging for other reasons. Produce, you know, as in deliveries, the boat doesn't come in, placing your Christmas turkey order a month before Christmas because you want to make sure you get them, blah, 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 blah. All that kind of thing.
You got used to it by now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I still have sleepless nights running up to Christmas when boats are being cancelled and I need, you know, I've got hundreds of people for Christmas lunch and my turkey's stuck on a boat somewhere. But anyway, but yeah, I think it's just that kind of work-life balance. Plus, you know, happy wife, happy life. My wife's got to be happy. She's super happy.
Is she in hospitality?
She was in hospitality all of her life, all of her career. And she actually started to work at the Atlantic with me. She was assistant GM when we moved here. But then as our daughter grew up, as in got few and became more demanding, both of us working in hospitality was like, nah. Yeah. All that happened was the childcare was more expensive than, you know, it was like...
Yeah,
it was.
No, I get it.
So she's actually gone into finance and she's smashing finance and doing really well. She's really happy. So she's happy, I'm happy. And what a place to bring up your kid. Yeah. You know, it's like, but again, I work splits. I still work 5 splits a week and everyone's like, oh my God, how do you still work splits? A split, do you know what? A split with family life is mega. I get up in the morning, I get my daughter ready for school. I make her pack lunch, we have breakfast. I take her to school. I go to work for my first split. I pick her up from school. I spend 3 hours with her every afternoon doing what we do. My wife finishes work, office hours, 9 to 5. She comes home. We say hello, we pass the baton, and I go back to work for dinner. It's like, it's perfect. If you work a 9 to 5 with a young kid, you don't see the kid. Yeah. Okay, you see them at the weekend, but it's like, it's...
And even a 9 to 5, you know, sometimes can be a bit more demanding, and it's not 5 actually. It turns out being
you leave the office at 5 or there's
7, and then by the time you get home, you're right. From certain points of view.
But again, I don't know any different. As I've worked split shifts for 25, 30 years, so
it's deep inside. You know?
It's like,
but then also, you know, having your wife, you know, work before in hospitality, I think, you know, the understanding is there. And then even when I work in hospitality, my wife kind of moved out from the hospitality because she was working. You know, we had some sort of like it was understanding. You know that okay, I need to stay longer. I'm finishing late. I'm going to be probably till 11. Sorry, I can't make it, and all that. So I think that helped as well, right?
Oh, it has to. You know, it's like my wife's a legend. You know, like she's a legend. Of course she is. I married her, but she's a powerful woman. But you've got to have, if you haven't got the right person, or not, I mean, wife's point of view, but if you haven't got the right people around you, if you don't surround yourself with the right people, you won't be able to do what you want to do. And especially with, I mean, I've used the word selfish quite a lot, but you know, I have to be selfish. There's not many people that you're like, right, I work every Saturday. I finish work at midnight. I come home like, how many wives are happy to sit at home on their own on a Saturday night instead of, but our relationship doesn't know any different. It's cool. We look forward to those days that we're together. We look forward to those moments together. You can enjoy a Monday
evening or whatever, and you're still kind of making work.
Sunday is the new Saturday.
Well, Sunday, which I'm kind of like taking valuable time now from you. Okay, so we're gonna move on now to the Eat Jersey food event festival, or how is it festival?
Yeah,
festival,
food
right?
Festival, yeah.
It is festival. That's something I'm really excited of, because I remember last year it was Michel Roux there. You had like a few other guests, but then Michel Roux was like, well, in my mind, because whenever we watch on TV, my wife, she doesn't really watch, cooking shows and everything else. But whenever he's presenting, he's like, this guy is so cool. Like the way he explains it, like, my God, I like the guy. And then coming from her, I was really surprised, because I have a kind of like a varied palette of like the chefs I like to watch. They're all sorts, even from like Jamie Oliver to whoever, like Marco Pierre White and so on. What can we expect this year? Well, the coming year.
Yeah, so it's 2024. It's still planning. When was it, last week? 2 weeks ago, we've announced
Share why
it's
you
happening.
can, obviously.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to be giving you any absolute... no, I need to be careful what I'm saying. But I mean, basically...
But do you know at this point, like, who's...
I know, because it's me that invites all the chefs.
So
the unique thing about Eat Jersey is every single chef, whether it's Michel Roux Jr., whether it's other great chefs that we've had, is their personal invites from me. So we don't contact an agency in the UK and say, right, we need 5 guest chefs and this is what we want. It doesn't work like that. It's personal relationships, it's personal invitations from me. So the chefs next year is my choice, my invitations they've accepted to me.
Big name, like
we've got
we don't need to. You don't. We've got big names.
The headline news for next year is it's happening. We're extending it by a day, so we're going into Wednesday next year. So we're going Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's an extra day. Okay. We've got two Michelin starred chefs on different nights. We've got 5-starred chefs in total. We've got chefs that have got cookbooks out there. We've got there's a chef that's cooking that means a huge amount to me personally in my life and my career. So I never thought that I'd be...
We've got local chefs, I guess, as well.
We've got local chefs. So I never thought that I'd be cooking a collaboration dinner with any of these guys, let alone some of them. So yeah, it's going to be mega.
That's so cool for Jersey, genuinely. And I hope this year I'm going to make it, because last year somehow I found out late it wasn't just the right setup. I can't remember whether it was on holiday. I can't remember. But hopefully this year. But when will be anything else announced?
So at the moment, we've got like a register your interest page. So people can just get on there, register interest, and then literally it's going to go live with, we'll announce the lineup, we'll announce the format of the dinners, tickets on sale, and we go. But it's amazing how much planning goes into.
I'm sure that's taking a lot of those 60 hours a week, a chunk of those 60 hours a week, just to make sure that everything is going to be perfect by the time.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's good fun. If it wasn't good fun, I wouldn't do it, because it's a headache doing it. But the payoff, the payoff is well worth it. And when like you said for Jersey, I mean, literally, I had people messaging me, direct messaging me, I didn't even know, saying, thank you so much for doing this for our island. Thank you for bringing,
genuinely, it's such a good advertisement, not just for Atlantic or
that's
basically for you.
I mean, it's for me, it's for the Atlantic, and it's for Jersey. That's
big.
That's what it is. But you've got people. I mean, a month after Eat Jersey this year, I went to France, and I was chatting with someone, and he was like, you're the chef at L'Antique. And I was like, yeah. I was like, how the hell do you know? And he said, I saw on Instagram, I saw the video, you had Michel Roux cooking with you. I was in the middle of France and a guy saw it. I mean, that's the power of it. Mad. So, no, it's cool. Really good. We're looking forward to it. Yeah, you should come up and do some little soundbite podcasts with the guest chef.
I think that would be a good shout. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
you'd have to come to them because they're busy, but yeah. No,
absolutely. Even if it's like in the middle of it. I mean, I kind of know, how to kind of like find my way in the kitchen, because probably not
when to talk to a chef and when not to talk to
and when someone said backs, freeze whenever needed. That'd be a good shout. We can probably talk about that. How was working with Michel Roux? It seems like I'm sure, like in his restaurant, which we'll get to it because it's going to be closing down from 1st of January. How is working with the guy? Is he that relaxed as he looks?
Yeah, he is.
Is he actually?
He is a cool character. I tell you, he's one of the most calm, considered chefs that you'll ever meet. Like, considering the standard that he operates at, considering his family legacy, considering what's on his shoulders, considering how many plates he's juggling with all of his consultancy work and all of his... To have him in the kitchen, working alongside him with my team creating some of his signature dishes that you've heard of or you've seen for 20, 30, 40 years was just like, yeah, it was insane. But he's a smooth operator. He's a good
He looks
good guy.
like that, genuinely. He looks like he's almost like flowing, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like that flow, you know, in the kitchen. He look.
Yeah, no, he's cool. He's a very, very cool guy. But you know, again, that came from, I had dinner with him and some other chefs years ago, and I'd had a glass of wine and he'd had a glass of wine and we'd all had a glass of wine. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask him. And I was sat next to him and I said, Chef, what do you think about cooking a collaboration dinner on Jersey? Expecting him to say no, or I'm too busy, or, you know, and he's not the sort of person that would be like, no. But
just find a good excuse, basically.
Yeah. And you know what? He said, I'd love to. Here's my mobile number. Give me a text. And from then on, he's like, you're texting one of the greatest chefs that's ever operated in the UK. And he's texting you.
In the world, you can say.
And he's texting you emoji kisses at the end of texts. And you're like, this is, you know, 30 years ago when I said I want to be a chef, you never think that that's going to happen, you know, and he's cool. And he's a man of his word. He came, we cooked an amazing collaboration dinner. He brought his group executive chef with him, Claude, who she was just like amazing to work alongside her because she travels the world with him. He came with his wife. He stayed for 5 days and loved Jersey. Yeah, it was.
Has he been around the island a bit?
Yeah, he went
farm to a farm, and
I mean, he's got a deal with Jersey Royals through Albert Bartlett Potatoes, so he did some work with them. But that was planned after my invitation. It wasn't like he wasn't brought here by an agency, and then it was like, oh, you're going to do this and this. He was like, well, while I'm here, let's do some filming of the Jersey Royals. I organised for him to go down to our dairy and beef farm, Blanc Pignon farm. So he went down there.
Seen that one,
which. Yeah, I mean, from them, you know, they've got a world-renowned chef stood in their farm trying their ice cream, and
and that video went like, you can say it was viral.
But listen, it's cool. It's cool for everyone. I mean, it's cool. You think the chefs in my kitchen. I mean, one of them, South African guy, he's idolised him since he was like watched him on telly when he was that. You know, that high.
How much of an impact had on your team, I guess, right?
Oh, no. That's it. You know, Michel Roux walks in, and I mean, not half of them, some of them nearly passed out. Some of them are asking for autographs, photos. He's obliging. He's talking to some of them about their careers and what they've done and what they're going to do. Amazing. You know, amazing.
In your long career, you know, because what I was going to ask, but I was so excited about talking about this part with Michel Roux. Have you ever been next to other chefs? You know, Michel is definitely one, Michel Roux Jr., because I keep not saying Junior and people will get confused that I'm talking about his ancestor. But yeah, he's definitely a living legend, no question about it. Have you ever been around other chefs and thinking that, my God, this guy, man, other people as well, but this guy, you know, is something else.
Yeah, definitely. I've had kind of what I'd say kind of like pinch myself moments. I mean, one of them was it's crazy. Even it's mind blowing me about to talk about it. It's like I'm like
emotional. Right. Yeah.
So I cooked a private lunch with Marco Pierre White. So how this came about was I won an Acorn Award, which is an award for it's if you're under 30 years old and you're a huge achiever in the industry. It's an industry award. So I won this, and I went to the awards dinner, and I was sat next to the MD of Unilever at the ceremony, and we got talking, and she explained about what Unilever is and what they do, and the companies that Unilever own, and she mentioned Knorr. So I was like, oh, Knorr, how does it work with Marco? And she was like, oh, you know, Marco, you know, he's a law unto himself, but it's a great relationship. And everyone laughs about Marco endorsing Knorr, but it sells it. And no one thinks, oh my God, he's a cowboy because he endorses a stock cube. It actually works, and he actually believes in it. And we had a whole chat about Marco. And I said, oh, I'd love to cook with Marco one day. That was all the conversation was that night. 2 weeks later, she emailed me saying, you said you wanted to cook with Marco. This date, be in London, you're cooking lunch with him. I was like, what? Anyway, long story short, me and Marco cooked an exclusive lunch for some guests on on the top of Kensington Roof Gardens. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but basically slap bang in the middle of London.
Yeah.
It's basically gardens on top of the building, but it's like a zoo. They've got flamingos. They've got waterfall and rivers. It's not open to the general public. It's like the most exclusive venue. Like I said, waterfall, rivers, flamingos wandering around and whatever. They set an exclusive lunch there, and me and Marco cooked the lunch. So I was told to be here on this date at this time. So I turned up thinking like, what the hell's going on? I didn't know the menu. I didn't know what we wanted to do. I had my knives with me. I had a chef's jacket with me. And I get there and Marco stood in the kitchen and I was like, holy shit. It was like, is this actually happening? Is this a dream? Is it whatever? Okay. And I spent the day with Marco Pierre White and we cooked lunch. He explained the menu. He explained what we're doing. We got to work. He was kicking my ass. But we cooked this lunch in the middle of London, like I said, Kensington Roof Garden. It was absolutely crazy. And then I don't know if you've read his autobiography, but anyone that's read his autobiography, Mr. Ishii is his driver because Marco doesn't have a driving license. So Mr. Ishii is like famous in his autobiographies because it's like Mr. Ishii this, Mr. Ishii that. And Marco calls Mr. Ishii and says that he wants picking up in an hour. And I was like, okay. So I was like ready to shake his hand and say, thanks for the day, Marco. And he was like, right, we're going to the pub. I was in a pub in London with Marco Pierre White. And then, I mean, now my tastes have broadened a little bit, but then I hated bitter. Like I just wouldn't drink a pint of bitter. Marco gets to the bar and orders 2 pints of bitter. And I'm like, oh my God.
You can't
say no. So Marco Pierre White hands me a pint of bitter and me and him stood at a bar with obviously the fuss created around Marco's just walked into a pub and him just like completely blanking everyone else, just stood at the bar sipping a pint of bitter with Marco Pierre White. And then he orders another. So we had 2 pints and Mr. Ishii turned up in a Range Rover and off he went. And I was just stood in the middle of London like, fuck, did that actually just happen?
Wow.
Crazy. So there's moments like that, you know, where it's like, it's super crazy, you know, going on Saturday Kitchen with James Martin, super crazy. You never think that something like that's going to happen to you. Or even chefs that you work for. Like I work for Tom Aikens in London at his eponymous restaurant. I mean, like you're stood in the presence for 12, 15 hours a day of an absolute genius.
Yeah.
Like with genius comes madness, but to be in his presence and see him work firsthand in an environment that is his own. It's not TV. It's not a one-off. It's like, it's just crazy. So yeah, I've had some moments.
Well, I mean, you are at that level already, you know. I'm kind of like honored having guests like you here, and I'm sure many other people, you know, when they go to Atlantic, it's like, you know what, Will is there cooking for me. That's an honor already, right? Because you've been through all these career of fine dining, you know, at the highest level. So that's high. You know?
It is what it is. But at the end of the day, I'm really humble about what I do. Like I've said, at the end of the day, I just cook. Yeah. You know, it's like, yes, I've been on TV. Yes, you know, I mean, it was like when I got my Michelin star, it suddenly just blew up. You know, nowadays you've got agencies hounding Saturday Kitchen and paying for chefs to go on to Saturday Kitchen. A week after I got my Michelin star, someone phoned the restaurant and the restaurant manager brought the phone into the kitchen and said, chef, there's some so-and-so on the phone. And I was like, hello? And he was like, oh, hi, it's the series producer for Saturday Kitchen. We'd like to get you on the show. I was like, what? I was like, it was crazy. You know, like I've never chased anything. You know, it's like
it came to you from hard work and dedication.
Yeah. I guess. I was on Radio 4 on Kitchen Cabinet with Jay Rayner. I was on like national radio. I was like, I had no media training. It was like, yeah, we're cool sat here talking like now. Okay, what can go wrong? But you're live on Radio 4 talking about food, and Jay Rayner's asking you questions that you've not been pre-briefed on at all, and you're like, yeah, you know, like it's things like that's crazy, you know. Being in magazines, national food critics coming and eating your food and reviewing your food. You know, it's just, you never think that would happen, but all of it, I keep my feet on the floor. I remain humble. And like I said, at the end of the day, I'm just cooking. I'm not some superstar. I'm cooking food. You need food. Your body needs food to survive. My body needs food to survive. That's all I'm doing. So yeah, that's me.
Nice one. So we're approaching the end now. So what I want to ask, for people that want to get in touch with you, know more about you, I don't know, find your story, whatever. Where did they find you on social media?
So
where are you most present?
Probably, to be honest, I used to be diehard Twitter. I didn't even have Instagram, to be honest, until 4 years ago. I don't know when it was. I was like Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter now. So I still dabble about on Twitter. And yeah, Instagram, I think it's just a little bit more relevant now, in that it's a bit more kind of like...
In the world you are in, I guess it's a bit more relevant, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I still have the little disclaimer that, views are my own or whatever. It's not a professional account. It's kind of like, it kind of, if you follow me on Instagram, it kind of, you'll see my life in a snapshot. It's all about running, dogs, my family, my daughter, and cooking. Yeah. So
you don't use it professionally. It's more of a your life as it is, raw.
Yeah. Or you'll go from a post about, I've just had some amazing local fish delivered, and I'll take a picture of it, through to I went on a run, through to, my daughter's just graduated from nursery, or whatever it is, So it's kind of, So Instagram, Twitter, that's me.
Will Holland, absolutely pleasure. It was amazing. And I do like the way you kind of came with all these information, and very relaxed as well. And you're an amazing person just by meeting you literally on the podcast, because we didn't really know each other before. But you're a really cool guy.
No worries. Thanks
really
very much.
Like it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.